Who's in charge? At Spotify, the latest from Podnews.net with Magellan AI, now analysing Spanish podcasts. Spotify has reportedly made changes to its podcast leadership team. On the content side, Sahar El-Habashi is now head of podcast business and will report to Alex Norström. Maya Prohovnik is now head of podcast product and will report to Gustav Söderström. Pushkin Industries is said to have laid off a handful of employees this week. Covered by Podnews on January the 18th, Libsyn has officially announced Libsyn Connect, a browser-based remote recording tool, and a number of other creator offerings at Podfest in Orlando. Remote recording tool Riverside has released a comprehensive report on the future of video podcasting for brands. 38% of consumers prefer YouTube as a podcast player, the company has discovered. UK advertising spend rose in Q3 by 4.3%. A San Francisco meditation company, which was described as a criminal cult in a BBC podcast, has failed in an attempt to sue for libel. A similar claim by an individual practitioner, Rachel Chervitz, has been allowed to proceed. The case continues. UK newspaper The Guardian has been accused of institutional racism by a number of podcast producers. And the Rodecaster Pro 2 has new firmware, version 1.1.1, which adds advanced submixing and a number of other enhancements. In People News, co-founder and CTO of Acast, Johan Billgren, has stepped down and will leave the business. Now it's time for me to focus on my family and friends before the next adventure, he says. And available, one of Ellen Schweikert's biggest clients has moved their marketing in-house. She says, I write podcast show notes, blog posts, teaser emails, and social content. And she's linked us to her portfolio. If you've been affected by recent changes in the job market, we'd love to sing your praises to more than 25,000 subscribers. You can email editor@podnews.net with an updated LinkedIn link and tell us what kind of role you're looking for. And in podcast news, the Podnews Weekly Review this week contains an interview with Jack Davenport, the co-founder and managing director of Goal Hanger Podcasts, responsible for some of the UK's biggest shows like The Rest is Politics. He tells us how he got to talk to Alistair Campbell.
We have a massive, almost unfair competitive advantage in terms of getting to talent, because essentially Gary Lineker can DM them on Instagram if we want to chat to them, and being able to bypass agents and things like that is a massive advantage, which we know is a huge thing in our favour.
We also hear Sam calculating the average salary for a Spotify employee and my views on the stock market and Spotify's layoffs. It's sponsored by Buzzsprout. PodChat, insights and trends from podcast experts, has Sam Sethi as a guest this week. Sam and host Danny Brown talk about the emergence of podcast-first radio, why ads and sponsorship levels will drop in a big way in 2023. Gee, thanks, Sam. Why Spotify is stuck in a revenue crisis they created for themselves, and why value for value is the future for podcast monetization and creator and audience relationships. Clever is just one of a number of podcasts that has joined the Surround podcast network. It features podcasts showcasing leading voices, topics and trends in the architecture and design industry. The new episode of Drink Champs, out today, is the first to be published under Interval Presents, the podcast network from Warner Music Group. We're told in this episode, the champs chop it up with my expert opinion. Math Hoffer, Mr. Mech, Sean Bigger, and Michael Smith-Baker talk careers, battle rap, and much more. Make some noise. And Productivity Puzzles has returned for a new season from the Productivity Institute. It provides insights from the latest research on UK productivity issues and solutions. It was made by Manchester's Q Podcasts. This podcast is sponsored by Magellan AI. Magellan AI has added support for analysing Spanish language podcasts in the US and Mexico. The product is already monitoring more than 2,000 advertisers, and you can get a demo right now if you want. Magellan.ai/Spanish. At least you can fill out the form and they'll get back to you. Magellan.ai/Spanish. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.